Ujai, and welcome to the Gator Gates podcast. We just did this, but due to technical difficulties, we're going to start over. But that's A-okay, because we're ready. We're live there, right? Perfect. All right, so we would like to really acknowledge all the forces in the non-material, Nabnabalamusa Moradinabig, for opening up the doors to the West, back into the traditions, the African traditions, back into the mystery schools for the rest of the world. And we would like to acknowledge that great ancestor sacrifice and also all of the other sacrifices of all the great ancestors that have been standing behind this great work. And all of the forces in the non-material, the deities, the genies, the powers of nature, everything that's standing behind this great work and that's aligned with this great work, we'd like to take the time to really acknowledge all of you. Myself and Kajasman included, we are Dogon initiates. And a word from our sponsor, Sauce Hot Sauce. Sauce Hot Sauce began in 2007 when a small group of students traveling in West Africa were trying to think of ways to support charitable projects. One of the students traveling happened to be an artisanal hot sauce chef, and right there, Sauce Hot Sauce was born. Since then, Sauce Hot Sauce has prided itself on making exceptional artisan hot sauces with high-quality ingredients to support good causes. We continue to do this with the best and tastiest offerings of sauce flavors to date, with a focus on supporting displaced families in the Fada and Gorma region of Burkina Faso with the revenue from our sales. Sauce Hot Sauce, phenomenal. I've seen people put it on pizza, seen them put it on rice and sauce, meat, you name it. There's no dish that you can miss with Sauce Hot Sauce. There you go. Just made a new slogan. Sauce Hot Sauce. You guys are hiring. You guys want to make me the face of your company? I'm here for hire. Before we jump into rapid fire, we do have a guest today. They have not joined us just yet. We'll call them down once we get through rapid fire. And with that being said, before we jump into rapid fire, we just have a few announcements. The doors of initiation are opening on September 3rd in the New Jersey Temple. There are many locations that are going to be opening up the doors of initiation within the month of September. I don't know the exact dates. I know that it's going to vary from temple to temple, but just know that most of the temples will be opening up their doors within the month of September. I can say for sure I know that September 3rd is when the New Jersey Temple will be opening up the doors of initiation. So if you're in the tri-state area, you're more than welcome to come down on September 3rd. I believe the event starts at 1 o'clock. And register for initiation. Let's hop into rapid fire.
All right, Ujai. So first up, we have India completes first crude oil payment to the UAE in rupees, officially ditching the US dollar for trade. So India's biggest oil company, Indian Oil Corp, has started paying for 1 million barrels of crude oil from the United Arab, I always mess this word up, I don't know how to spell, Emirates. There we go. Using
you don't know
Indian
how to pronounce
rupees.
Emirates, bro?
I've seen it on the jerseys, but I'm not that cultured.
Yeah.
Hey, man, it's just me. As the two countries agree to trade in their own currencies instead of dollars.
Shout out to them.
You know?
Yeah.
We'll
The fall of the American dollar continues.
We'll see where it goes.
No, I mean, that's good because it's showing with everything that's going on in West Africa, with everything that's going on all around the world, seems like, everybody is kind of waking up to the power that every country has to really kind of overturn the thumb that the Western superpowers, the so-called Western superpowers, use to keep everybody else in the world under. So shout out to all of those countries.
You know, it's funny because if you talk to people in the financial industry, a lot of them don't really believe that the dollar will really fall. Like they think this is just like another kink in the chain. But I don't know. Historically, empires rise and then they fall. I mean,
Always.
it's simple.
America.
You know, that's just life. So maybe it's almost America's time.
I mean, it's not almost. It seems like America's been on its last legs for a few years. I'm surprised America hasn't fallen yet, honestly.
The day they elected Obama into power, we should have known it was over.
Well, yeah, because they're always looking for a
Yeah.
black dude to give the sinking ship to.
Right, exactly.
They're like, where's the black man?
I
us
bet
give
you
him-
when it falls, that's what they're gonna say too.
Yeah.
It was since his
They'll give us like a
administration.
black Trump.
Yep.
Like it'll be Trump, but black. It'll just be Trump, but black. And they'll be like, it was his fault.
All right, time. Next up, we have the man who allegedly hit people with a chair in the Montgomery brawl has been arrested.
Oh no. Wait, is that what team was he on?
What you mean? He was the guy with the chair.
I know I haven't seen the video.
At all? You have not
I've
watched
seen
the whole
some of the
thing?
video, but I just didn't watch the whole thing.
So now the chair is the official black symbol.
Oh, is it?
It is. So
Okay, word.
It's like
just
a
go on
flag.
Instagram. You see
Yeah.
videos of people with a chair. They're doing all kind of stuff now.
Oh, they are?
So yeah.
We got chairs. Yeah, come
got
on down
fold-up
September
chairs.
3rd. We got chairs.
We
We'll
won't
give
be
you-
hitting anybody though.
No, we will give you the proverbial chair to go hit people with, called knowledge of your ancestors. Oh, so wait, did they take him to jail?
Yeah, he's arrested.
Oh, he got arrested? Or what are they trying to charge him with?
I don't know.
Assault
Probably
with a
assault,
chair.
Assault with is that a deadly weapon?
It is now.
yeah. The way he was using it.
Assault with a leisurely weapon.
No, but it's funny because
ladies
like
and gentlemen.
in the comments and people's commentary about it is like he was a good citizen, just helping an innocent person from being jumped. And there's other people that are like, what chair?
Uh-huh.
I don't
did not
remember
see
a chair. These are all allegations.
But the same way every time there's always like a racist incident that's caught on camera, and then a whole bunch of people come out of nowhere and then support the racist person with financial contributions.
Exactly.
So I'm not mad at it, Shout out to the guy that allegedly had the chair.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. Alleged.
On to the next. So this one's pretty crazy. Is a non-binary mother who is begging her infant son to be gay.
What do you mean begging?
So this is a video that's been floating around on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, yada yada, where there's a black woman holding a black baby, and the baby has a white one piece on,
Mm-hmm.
and it has a rainbow on it, and she's like, be gay, please be gay, gay baby. She just keeps sort of expressing that she wants this baby that ended up being gay.
Really?
It's really sad because they want to claim that these things are natural and these things are people are born this way, but yet you have somebody having to put this baby up in a camera and begging it to be gay. I've never seen any parent put the baby up to anything and say, be straight, be straight, be straight. You get what I'm saying? It's like you can clearly see this is some kind of mental sickness going on. And the sad part is that it's really affecting children now. Because going back to previous topics we had about this, now they're putting it in books. So you can't convince me that this is not some kind of mass brainwashing.
I mean, the thing is it's becoming a either you're in or you're out type of crowd with the whole LGBTQ plus. Did I leave anything out?
What's the plus?
LGBTQAI plus.
Oh, with the LGBTQ AI.
What's the I?
Is it AI or IA?
It's AI.
AI, like artificial intelligence?
I don't know. It's in there, so I don't
So
know.
we don't know what the I is?
Minor?
Intersex.
Intersex?
Intersex?
Yes.
And then what's the A? Asexual?
Asexual.
It's a weird coalition because the acronyms are not really all under unified theory. Some of it is about sexuality, some of it is about gender expression.
Exactly.
So they're in this interesting coalition where they're not necessarily cool. No, no,
I don't think they can. I don't want to cut you off, but they can't hear you. Yeah.
Let's label it one thing. Let's just label it mental illness. That's it. Plain
Hey.
and simple.
I mean,
Plain and simple.
it definitely is venturing into the realm of mental illness because it's becoming like whatever you want it to be versus, like
Because there's even a
legitimate thing.
plus.
Yeah, there's a plus, so it's like all encompassing.
Never stops.
What's the plus? Fairies?
The plus is
Werewolves
whatever.
Is anything and
Goats?
everything. Goats?
Remember that we did that? The guy who claimed he was a goat?
The dog guy.
Oh, the dog. That's
The dog
the
guy?
guy that became a dog. He spent like $18,000 to become a dog.
What the fuck?
Bro, imagine if you're sitting there and you're talking shit about somebody and then the person's like, oh, gotcha, I'm not a dog, I'm a human. And then they take off their fucking dog costume.
Oh, jeez.
Next topic. Just go.
Okay, so sort of equally as crazy. The next topic, we have a Nigerian doctor who removed and returned a baby to the mother's womb. I don't know if I'm butchering his name. Lindley Boimer. Oh, this is the lady's name. Lindley Boimer, baby girl who experienced an extraordinary journey, faced a life-threatening situation before even being born when her mom, Margaret, was pregnant with twins in 2015. A rare tumor called a teratoma, I'm not going to even try this part, was discovered growing on Lindley's spine. A remarkable medical
mom's spine.
procedure, exactly. Doctors at the Texas Children's Hospital removed her from her mother's womb at 23 weeks, performed a delicate surgery to remove most of the tumor, and then placed her back in the uterus.
23 weeks, how many months is that? 4.5?
So yeah, maybe about 5 weeks.
5.5. That's insane. The baby's still alive?
Yeah, I think it was born, but born premature.
After facing the odds, the baby was born at 36 weeks and 5 days, but she had to have another surgery after she was born.
Is the baby
the
alive?
mother,
The
not
baby's
the baby.
alive.
The
Yeah.
mother had to have another surgery.
No, this was on the baby's spine.
On the baby's spine?
Yes.
What the fuck? So you're telling me they took the baby out the womb,
Out.
they did surgery on the baby's spine,
Yes.
and then put the baby back in the womb?
Put the baby back.
What happened to the twin?
There is no speaking of the twin beyond the surgery.
So, only one baby came, but there was twins.
So did they what? Did they kill one of the babies and then they're
That's
making
what
it
it
seem
sounds
like
like.
they didn't kill
That's
the
what
other
it sounds
baby?
like. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's the interesting part, because it seems like maybe the surgery that they did on the one baby wasn't successful, and they just put it back
They
in,
just put-
and then the
yeah.
other baby came out. Maybe. We don't know.
I mean,
It's either that or it's juju.
yeah, no one
I
knows
don't
what the
know.
hell that is.
Nigerian
Yeah.
doctor.
No
Some
one knows
people know what that
outside of
is.
us. Yeah, no
People
one's-
know what that is.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, that doesn't sound good at all. Because, I mean, naturally speaking, the baby's supposed to remain in the womb for 9 months, and you're not supposed to be artificially removing the baby from the womb at all. So that doesn't sound good. That sounds like, they're just like trying shit out.
I wonder if we could
On
have like a
people.
follow up with this story. Like
what,
we could see like
Rapid
the
Fire
life.
Part 2.
Yeah, like the life of this child, like in the next 2 years or something.
Rapid Fire 3 years from now. Yeah, I mean, we could do that.
'Cause
Some of
that's-
these stories, I'm like, what happened to those things?
Right.
Like, what happened to those people, or what happened to those stories, and all that kind of stuff. So we should do like a
Follow
rapid
up.
fire follow up.
Yeah.
Like, we should find out what the crazy, like, Nigerian doctor is up to, or the guy allegedly with a chair.
Okay, next topic. Controversial new Whole Foods opens up in Washington, D.C. So basically, at this Whole Foods in Washington, D.C., you have to scan to do everything. All right, so you have to scan to get in the store. You have
Scan what?
It doesn't say. It just says that you have to scan. Now, we know that there's been a Whole Foods that's opened up somewhere else where you have the palm scanners for checking out. So it's possible that they're using that same system there. But we're not 100% sure. Oh, yeah, it actually is the palm scanners. I see it in the video now. It's the palm scanners.
So keep going.
So you have to opt into the whole thing, right? You can only use this if you've opted into the palm scanning. So you have to scan to get in. You have to scan to get to checkout. You have to scan to exit checkout.
So how do they know how much money you have? It's all based on your palm print?
Yeah, your palm print. It's not even a palm print, right? So the assumption or the story that they were giving was that it doesn't, this is secure because it doesn't give up any identifying properties.
But your fucking palm? Your whole hand?
So they say that it's not about your palm. It's a technology that doctors use to find veins. Like when they're trying to give you some sort of an injection and they don't want to hit the wrong vein.
So now it's getting even weirder.
Exactly. So now they're saying that they're using vein patterns to, like, as the identifying thing, like for the palm scanning. So it scans that vein pattern and then you link that to a card. And then you can just use your palm to pay for things.
So you guys remember when, like, there used to be those conspiracy videos, and they would talk about like how in the future there's gonna be like a new world order, and then it's all gonna be through like a chip in your hand and all that kind of stuff.
Cars,
The mark of the beast.
Mark of the beast, all that kind of stuff. It looks like those people were telling the truth.
Oh, yeah.
Because it looks like we're getting there.
Can't say that they were lying.
Like, you can't say that those people were lying, but then the whole thing is that, like, everybody used to mock those people. Because I remember, and you used to look at conspiracy theorists and be like, oh, are you just a conspiracy theorist? And then you would, like, do it in such a condescending way.
You know, that term is interesting, conspiracy theorists. Because didn't they, like, come up with that term? Like,
it's the CIA. It was
yeah, the
a
CIA, because
ploy.
people were actually figuring out what they were doing.
Yeah.
So then they just kind of, like, put it in the news to kind of, like, make those people seem crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not far-fetched to think that maybe people are just able to perceive what the hell is going on.
Or maybe they're just in the know, and then when you're in the know, and then the government doesn't want you to know, or doesn't want their agenda to be figured out, then they find ways to discredit the people that are figuring it out instead of copying to all of the crazy shit that they're actually doing.
And it's funny because for me to theorize something, it has to exist. So
I
the
mean,
conspiracy
it's
has
true.
to be real.
It's true. I mean, but a conspiracy, what is that anyway? A conspiracy is just a plan. So it's a plan that people have figured out, and then you're just saying that they're theoreticizing it as opposed to it actually existing.
And then what becomes even funnier is that theory is sort of the basis for this whole scientific world that we have somehow.
Science has nothing but theories.
So it's like you try to denounce it on one count when they're trying to figure out what you're doing, but on the other hand, it's like if you don't have a theory, then we don't have to pay attention to anything.
The mind games, they never end.
They never don't. They never do.
All right, next up, we have California rules it illegal for security to stop a shoplifter amid growing shoplifting concerns. So there have been a lot of videos, again, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, yada, yada, where there's just people going in the stores. So the rule is that if it's under $950, like, they can't stop you. Or they're advised not to stop people. Like, the
So
state
how do
law.
you know if it's under $950?
Now
You calculate. You know what you're gonna go get. You walk out into the store and you say, okay, I need this, 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 and this. It costs this, this, and this, and you go and get it.
So then, like, you're telling me if you have $949
Hold
worth
on,
of stuff,
hold on. Let me
security
correct
guard
myself.
Can't
Let me
run
just
after
make
you?
it very clear. So the state law says that stealing merchandise worth $950 or less is just a misdemeanor. So that means that law enforcement probably won't look into it. Like, they won't arrest the person because it's like, it's petty.
Yeah.
So people are just like taking advantage of it. So
As
now
you
it's
should.
like, why won't the store employees like do anything about it? You know, but they don't want to take the risk of like having all of these problems with law enforcement when they're not really gonna do anything about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I don't want to say anything incriminating,
That's only California.
but I will say that hey, yeah, keep $950 or less. You're in the clear. Like like keep hitting the European designer stores. Find out where. Go hit Rodeo Drive. Go to Louis Vuitton. Go to Ferragamo. Go to all of those European designers and take to your heart's desire. Just make sure it's $950 or less, and you're good to go. Screw them. Go take what you want.
Wear a mask though, so you can keep doing
Yeah,
it.
don't get caught.
Same
don't
store
get caught.
over and
Yeah,
over.
Don't get caught. I'm just kidding. These are all jokes. We're just joking. We are not advocating for burglary and all of these other criminal activities that are happening. We are not advocating for that. We're just advocating not getting caught.
Fair enough. Next topic, we have, this one was really wild. This is a big one. There's a nurse named Lucy Letby who has been found
Sounds
guilty.
like a porn star. Lucy Letby.
Yes, Letby.
Letby.
Letby. Letby. So she's guilty. She's been found guilty of murdering 7 babies.
Ooh, that got dark
So,
fast.
Yes.
Wow.
Lucy Letby was named the worst serial killer of children in modern UK history. So she was found guilty of murdering 7 babies and trying to kill 6 others. So there was a screenshot that surfaced between her and I believe another coworker, where the coworker is texting her and saying, sorry if I was off. No, she texts the coworker and says, sorry if I was off. It wasn't a great start to the shift, but sadly, it got worse. She's starting to feel a way about doing it. So now she's like having these mixed feelings about what she's doing.
So she was just killing babies and then got a conscience suddenly?
I guess
How many
so.
like in one night, or was this over the course of
No,
how
this is
long?
over the course because she's been to court about it before
What?
and they haven't arrested her.
They didn't arrest her? Where is this?
This is in the UK.
Okay, well,
So
don't
Was
have
she
any
willingly
babies in
killing?
the UK.
Was she willingly killing these babies, or was she just following orders?
Supposedly there's something where like she's doing it on
That's a good
purpose.
question. That's a good question.
Nah, sounds like they
But what
they
color were
did-
these babies?
Good, another one.
That's not a part of the report.
Do any names on the babies?
Nah.
Like any names that sound somewhat non-white?
So it says the 33-year-old was a nurse at the neonatal unity at the Countess of Chester Hospital when she was committed of her crimes between 2015 and 2016. She was found not guilty on 2 attempted murder charges, and the jury were hung on 6 other counts. So she was found guilty on 2, and then the jury just didn't make a decision on 6 of them.
So she was just, and they let her back into the fucking workforce?
Exactly.
Sounds like she's a scapegoat for the actual hospital itself.
I mean, who
Probably.
knows? It could be the hospital. It could be like she just could be working for people, just going out and killing babies.
So yeah, she was texting like, I was struggling to accept what happened to baby A, and now we've lost baby C. It's all a bit much. And then the coworker's like, I'm hoping you're gonna be okay. And she's like, I just keep seeing them both. No one should have to see and do the things we do.
See?
It's heartbreaking.
You see?
But
She
it's
said
not
we.
about me. We'll learn to deal with it.
Yeah, we should check that hospital out.
Yeah, I would not go.
No
give
one
birth
should
at
go
that
there.
hospital. No one should go there.
Yeah.
My heart goes out to her. I feel like she might be the victim in this.
That's very possible.
That's unfortunate.
But that's what happens, you know. Modern medical system. It's a monster.
Don't have babies in hospitals. That's all you can do.
Yeah. All right, last topic. A little less crazy, I guess. A leading politician says victory for Niger's coup leaders would be the end of democracy in Africa. An official of the West African Bloc of Nations says 11 countries in the region have agreed to commit troops to a military development aimed at restoring Niger's democratically elected president following last month's coup. Yeah, so on Friday, the ECOWAS Commissioner for Peace and Security, Abdel Fattah Musa, said 11 countries have committed to the deployment. We're ready to go anytime the order is given, Musa said in the Ghana capital, Accra. Following 2 days of meetings there, our troops are ready to respond to the call of duty of the region.
That's interesting, because they said a democratic leader. They want to restore the democratic leader, but somebody else said that would be the end of democracy.
Yeah.
Well, what is democracy really? If we really want to get into that, because, I mean, do we really need democracy? I mean, democracy, from my understanding, what I can see is the very problem itself. Like, they say the way you do things isn't correct, the way you live isn't correct, your spiritual practices aren't correct, the way your society is functioning isn't correct, the way we do it here in Europe is correct. So we're going to colonize you and give you democracy. So, I mean, if they're trying to reinstate this democratic leader, I don't see how that can be the end of democracy. For democracy to be an end, we as, what do you want to say, African people, indigenous people, whatever, we have to come to an understanding that we have to, if we want true freedom, we have to first be able to get rid of the colonial mindset. We have to get rid of the white man's mindset. We have to get rid of the white man's tools. And democracy is nothing but the white man's tool. So there can be no evolution as long as we're still trying to fight for things that has been given to us by people who've colonized us.
And yeah, you know, that we'll just leave it at that, because you know, we speaking on colonial tools and speaking on, you know, identity and things like that, that ties into our topic today. We wanted to have a conversation, and luckily we are very lucky to have the brother that we have here today. And we would like to welcome our guest, Menelik. Come on down, please. And welcome.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you for coming on.
I recognize this is going to be a relatively short-lived appearance.
Yes, we know you have to head out possibly, so I'm gonna say possibly, you know, in the possibilities that you don't head out, but if you do, we understand.
Unfortunately, capitalism calls, and you know, as much as we want to liberate ourselves,
Yeah.
bills need to be paid.
Just
and,
speaking to the
you know,
mic
you
for
just
us.
You got to suffer through it sometimes.
Yep.
Colonial tools again.
Colonial tools. And yet, the conversation that we wanted to have today was surrounding the black card. I'm not talking about the American Express card. I'm talking about the proverbial black card. Because I think it was this week. I don't really remember. I made some mac and cheese, right? And when I made mac and cheese, there was a sister. She said to me, she was like, I didn't know. She was like, you knew how to make mac and cheese. She was like, I see how you earned your black card. And I was like, and I really had to stop and kind of think about it for a bit. Like how we throw that term around, right? Like how there's the proverbial black card. And it's kind of funny because to say that there's such a thing as a black card speaks to a group of people seeming to have an identity problem, because it kind of speaks to us kind of functioning and moving in a way where we could say to one another that you are either aligned with the identity or what the cultural identity would provide to you, or you're not. And I know that you could maybe speak on.
I just have a question.
Go ahead.
Because when you're basically saying like, or if I'm hearing you correctly, I'm hearing you say that the idea that there is this proverbial black card that we toss around within the community speaks to an identity crisis, specifically because it's this in-group, out-group sort of dynamic that you're building out. Is that like what the core of what you're saying is?
I mean, it does to a certain extent, because to truly understand what the root of where this identity of like calling yourself black comes from, it actually comes from the historical context of back in the way back when there was a specific group of people coming to learn from the ancestors that were populating the region that we now know as the Nile Valley, or we refer to as the Nile Valley. And they had learned a few things, and in learning a few things, they adopted a particular color to identify themselves as. And in identifying themselves as that, they said, from now on, we want to be known as the white ones. And I'm kind of, giving you the Spark Notes history of this. And long story short, in their conquest of colonization, they made sure that anybody that was not aligned with them were known as the black ones in their imperialistic conquests.
So, that, not to cut you off, but the interesting thing about that is when we can say the Greeks and then later on the Romans started their kind of like conquest of like colonization, they had to colonize even what we know as Europe today first. And in doing so, a lot of the tribes that were there in Europe, whether they be Celtic or
Shout out to the Irish.
Slavic, whatever, or the people that's like far north, the Germanic tribes, they actually distinguish themselves different from those people. Like I know today we all have this concept of like white and black. So by looking at somebody and seeing how somebody looks, we might identify a specific group of people as white. But the interesting thing is those people back then who looked like what we might identify as white looked at those other people who we also might identify as white. They saw them as black. But it was black not based on the skin tone or the skin complexion. It was more so black based on a cultural perspective. It was like black based on the idea of one person being more superior than the other person, just based off of quote unquote cultural.
So can I hop in? Because there are a couple of different things that I'm seeing y'all are touching on. One is sort of the history of racialization, which is an actual thing that happened. Like there was a time before we had black, white, Asian. That's not how people considered themselves. And, it starts really in that Mesopotamian region with a lot of Arab scholars, goes into Greeks, goes into Romans. There's a long history there. So there's that part of like, there is a group of people who identify themselves as superior, and then they otherize everybody else. And,
Yep.
you know, the shorthand for that is everybody else is black because you're not us. So that's one part of it. I think there is another conversation that is probably a bit more germane to this discussion, just because when we talk about the concepts of blackness and whiteness, it's really, really hard in the modern era to divorce those ideas from American history and the history of, you know, race relations specifically in North America. And, you know, we can go to Brazil, we can go to the Caribbean, and there are a lot of similarities, but right now we live in a racialized globe that is sort of fundamentally built on the concepts that America perfected. And a lot of that othering and a lot of that racialization, because we can go back 75, 100 years and say the Irish were not white.
Correct.
There was actually a process that they had to do to socialize themselves in America to become white. And so I think we're sort of, you're jumping from one place that's thousands of years ago and then speaking about sort of how they developed those terms, and without going through the various iterations of, okay, and now we're here, and blackness is this construct to us, and whiteness is now also a concept. So as much as we want to deny it and say, hey, white people are not a monolith, that's very, very true. But in the context of America, whiteness and blackness are very different things, because I'm Black American. I don't have another flag. I can't be like I'm Jamaican, or I'm Nigerian, or I'm South African, or like, you know, my people are Kenyan. I'm Black in a very generic American sense of the word. And so when we have this conversation, for me, it's like, okay, there's my weird, unique tribe that kind of doesn't have a home. And then there's, how do we relate to this broader struggle? And where do we choose to unify? How do we choose to unify? What is this umbrella term that we're even talking about in practice today? And how are we using that to conceive of ourselves, to conceive of other people, to congregate and organize?
So I think everything you just said is exactly the point he was trying to make.
Well,
So the problem is, again, the same historical context that you're mentioning in America is the problem, because that's the same historical context that led to the identity crisis. Because the fact that a group of people don't have a flag, or they don't have a home, or they don't have an identity, what they have to latch on to is that idea that was kind of given to them. It was an idea created for them by outside sources. So then people then latch on to that kind of identity without knowing what was predating that thing
And
before that.
Can I push back against that? Because there's a certain level of, you're just kind of telling me that, and I'm hearing it this way, you may not be trying to say it this way, but you kind of just said your Black identity was given to you by someone else, and you and your people didn't have any part in creating this. And I kind of reject that, because while I don't have a unique flag that is not American, all iteration of American culture come really from my people. And our unification within one another, the way that we have chosen to associate with one another, in part was because we were rejected by larger societies, but we also self-organized. We also, you know, built communities within ourselves.
To do self-organized to do what?
To
Because you also
survive.
mentioned it. It's about assimilating. It's about assimilating into the larger structure.
And you see what you just did? You just said that my people trying to survive was assimilation. I didn't talk about how our communities assimilated into America. That's not what I was talking about.
No, before you had said that. The thing is,
we rallied together to survive oppression because we were being literally murdered in mass. So what part of me organizing with my people when people are trying to kill me is assimilation?
because the thing is this, we can't deny the history and the fact that those things happened, right? There was violence against people that look like you, that people that look like me. But the reality is, when you separate a group of people from what is natural to them, then you put them in a state of having to survive. You put them in a state of having to do things that's unnatural to them and to their being. So when you do that, those group of people have to attach themselves to the very same thing that's actually killing them. So that's why you even said it, every area and aspect of what we can call American culture, which I would argue that American culture is actually uncultural because it has to take from everything and everyone else, every bit and piece.
And so, but this is the thing. You're making conclusions from things that I didn't say. So when I say
No, you said it.
Again, like my point though, when I say American culture is based on black culture, right? There is a long history and tradition of West African music, and a good portion of that survived into what we now call Black American music. The history of all American popular music starts with the minstrel show. It starts with white people imitating black people. It moves into that. We have the Negro spiritual, we move into the blues and gospel, and constantly the popular American culture is a regurgitation of that by people who were not there when it was built. We see it now with hip hop, where the way that hip hop started is not where it is now because it got commercialized, because it got absorbed. And so when you argue that we're trying to assimilate, I'm saying, no. We're in a situation where our oppressors are constantly here doing all these things. When we are trying to survive, when we are building our own things, for you to say because, the powers that be came and made capitalism, ruin it, and took it from you, you were trying to assimilate, I think that's a little short-sighted, and I think it takes a lot of agency away from people who created a lot of things in opposition to those very structures that were beating them down. So
The thing is, you can't really create something in opposition to a structure that you claim is beating you down when you're creating it within the same structure.
That's a yes and no thing, I think, because when you say like creating it within the same structures, was the Black Panther Party for self-defense, when they made free lunch programs and eventually shamed the U.S. government into providing free and reduced lunch, was that them working within the system, or was that them organizing within their community and taking care of their own?
Yeah, that's them organized within the community and taking care of their own.
So how is that them working within the system? Because you just said when they did that, that was them working within the system, and therefore...
No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said.
So
what I'm saying is this.
One second. So, because I know that Menelik is going to have to go very soon, and really this episode was supposed to be in the entirety of the 2 hours when we aired. We were going to be lucky enough to have Menelik for the entirety of the show, but because we're not going to be able to have Menelik for the entirety of the show, and this is exactly why we want to be able to have Menelik on the show, is so that we're able to have these in-depth, long-form conversations, but we're going to have to cut the conversation short in 5 minutes. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm enjoying this. So but I do have to find a stopping point at some point so that we're able to, because I know that you guys have to go to work, but we want to be able to have you back on the show. I know we already have some guests lined up for the coming weeks, but we just want to be able to make sure that, you're able to come back. And then when you come back, we're going to be able to continue this discussion in its longer form, because I know there's a lot to talk about. I know there's a lot, there's a lot of things to dissect. But, for the sake of time, because I already see the way the way the debate is going strong.
It's not a debate. It's a conversation.
I mean, yeah, it's a conversation. It's a conversation. But nonetheless, we'll just end it. We'll end it right here because I know Menelik has to go in a couple minutes. So, Menelik, we appreciate you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And we are very much looking forward to consider this a little snippet into the long form episode when we're able to do it. And we'll see you the next time. Yeah. And we appreciate you, Menelik.
Thank you.
Yeah. picture. We'll take a picture, but yeah, we'll just do it fast. It's for the thumbnail. He'll just do it real fast, and then you know. Oh, okay. Unfortunately, we did. No. That's not the end of the show. Unfortunately, we did have to. There was just a scheduling conflict that Menelik had to attend to that would start at 10 o'clock. And unfortunately, just due to some technical difficulties, we weren't able to, go live immediately at 8 in order to have the full show with Menelik. But we are definitely looking forward to having Menelik back because we want to be able to have conversations like the conversation we were starting to have. Looks like people are saying that the mics are off.
No.
Oh, okay. Nonetheless, so yeah. Anyway, what? Oh. Okay. So, yeah. So just doubling back to, the conversation we were starting to have. It's the thing is this is that we tend to have this thing in America, and yeah, we're waiting for you, bro. So we tend to have this thing where in America, where there tends to be like an identity crisis of sorts. Mm-hmm. And there tends to be an identity crisis of sorts where it's like, we will kind of, find ourselves at odds with one another based on like what someone's identity could be or what someone's identity couldn't be, so on and so forth. And particularly, it tends to rear its head a lot when we're dealing with, a lot of people that feel like their culture has been taken from them and they don't know how to maybe get that culture back, or they don't know how to kind of, confront those kind of things. And then we can find ourselves in a position where, we will kind of be pointing the finger at one another instead of kind of, pointing a finger at the things that find us to be divided. So this is really kind of the basis behind the conversation that we wanted to have today. Unfortunately, Menelik had to leave. He had to go to work. So we're gonna pause that conversation with Menelik, but we will continue to discuss the topic at hand without Menelik, and then we'll be able to continue the conversation when Menelik comes back. But it's unfortunate because we tend to find ourselves at odds with one another instead of really kind of dealing with the issue. And the issue at hand is the fact that we've lost a cultural identity And because we've lost a cultural identity, we tend to identify with generic shit like, you know how to cook mac and cheese, or you know how to cook collard greens, or you know how to, you know how to dance. You can moonwalk, or you can crip walk, or you can do this, or you can do that.
Not everybody can moonwalk.
Yeah, I know.
That shit is hard.
Moonwalking is very difficult. Not everybody can moonwalk, but you guys know what I'm saying though. Is like it tends to be this thing where it's like becomes this generic. It's like if you use slang, you're considered black. If you don't use slang,
Yeah.
then you're not considered black. If you do these things, you're considered this. If you don't do these
Or
things,
if you don't
you're
vote for
considered
Biden,
that.
you ain't black.
Oh, that's what they're saying now?
That's what Biden said.
Yeah.
Wait,
they were
that's
saying
what Biden said?
That was
Yeah.
like the thing with the election. Like that's how he got.
If you
some
don't
of the
vote
black
for me, you ain't black.
He said it.
I wouldn't vote for Biden. I didn't vote in the last election, and
You
I
vote?
don't care. No, I didn't. I haven't voted since the first Obama election, since 2008.
Yeah. Since
That's
they
the
got me to
last
think
time.
it was
Yeah.
cool in
I
high
ain't
school.
never voted in my life.
You've never voted?
Never. No, they made me vote one time, and guess what?
What do you
Guess
mean
what
they made
age?
you vote? They
Made
can't
you vote.
make
No,
you
no,
vote.
no, no. Listen, guess what
Yeah.
age I was?
How old?
I was like 8. They made us vote. They
Come
gave us
on, bro.
They gave us
8,
this
bro.
fake. They gave us a fake poll to kind of prepare us to start voting when we get older in elementary.
Oh. Yeah,
So
but that's not the same thing, bro.
that's the only time I ever voted.
Fuck it. Whatever, bro. That's not voting. Okay. Anyway, I haven't voted since the first Obama election, and if I was voting in this election, if Trump, I'm gonna say this and I don't care, if Trump gets that nomination, Trump is who I would vote for.
You know they're after you like every
Who?
week that
said
you say
who?
this.
Wait, who's that?
In
I
the
don't know.
comments.
Oh, people
They're
get
after
after me
you
for this?
every week
I didn't know.
in the comments.
Oh, and speaking of which, before we go any further, shout out to Matthew Ruta. Matthew, we got your email. We don't want you to think we didn't get your email.
Mm-hmm.
We got your email. We will get back to you. We would like to feature you on the show. I don't know where you are. I don't know if you're in the area. But yeah, we'll discuss that at some point. We did not. We are not ignoring your email. We got your email, and we will get back to you. We appreciate the very thoughtful and lengthy email that you sent, and we will get back to you. And on that note, yes, I would definitely. I don't care if people are coming after me in the comments. I would definitely vote for Trump, and I would definitely vote for Trump because Trump is not good for the system, and that's why I would vote for Trump. I would vote for Trump because he blatantly exposes how corrupt the system is and how the system works and how it's laid out and what it does. And you can see how corrupt the politicians are and how dysfunctional, or you can say functional, these so-called
How it actually
politicians
functions,
are,
yeah.
and how it functions.
Yeah.
So I would definitely vote for Trump. Run that to the bank.
Now that I think about it, it's like Trump is like he's like the spoiled like nephew of America. Like it makes perfect sense that he would be the one to like really expose everything because he's like, I don't care what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I could just go to my uncle. Like
It's
my
like, yeah, we
uncle
don't
has
pay
all the-
taxes.
Why would
Yeah, we
I
don't
pay
pay
taxes?
This is how you do it.
Exactly.
I'll tell you.
Exactly.
I tell you, yo, they are messing things up in the White House. That war, it didn't make sense.
Exactly.
It doesn't.
Hillary killed those people. It didn't make sense.
Yeah, but the thing is like these politicians have been hiding behind their power for so long. Like, have you guys seen that old ass politician that can't even? She hasn't been at work for like months, but they won't fire her. I don't know her name, but if somebody could pull up her name, she's like that old ass politician, and she hasn't been at work for I don't know how long. And they're talking about how she needs to resign. She's like, no, I refuse to resign. Like Nancy Pelosi, like when you really look into Nancy Pelosi and like her and her husband and like how much money they have and where they get their money, I saw the funniest thing on Instagram one day. It was like, you guys ever seen that episode when Dave Chappelle is the president, and then they start asking him questions, and then he and then he knocks the thing off the table and then runs out. Right. And then they're talking about how that is Nancy Pelosi, like how she handled that, like when they started talking to her about the money. And there's so much corruption in like politics that I don't understand how people to this day still look at or view politics or view the system and view voting as a viable, legitimate, real option.
So it's kind of like what you were talking about. It's like when you have an identity crisis, or like certain things have been like stripped from you. Like certain things have been stripped from you. The only thing you have to latch on to is what's in front of you, like what's been presented to you. So you kind of like start to like build some kind of identity or some kind of emotional attachment to those things. So voting is one of those things. It's like, okay, they took traditional society away. They took the way we ran and governed ourselves, and they gave us democracy, and they gave us these votings and all these things.
Instead of kingship.
Right. And now they make us feel like we're empowered by actually being one of the people to cast a vote, which is actually false, because we already know how that really goes behind scenes, right?
Right.
Now you have this emotional attachment to that feeling of, I voted. My opinion matters. Who I think should be in there matters, because I have power to do that, which is, again, falsehood. So you have the emotional attachment to it. So you start to develop this kind of identity around it where I'm a voter. I'm this, I'm that. So it's just another, again, just one of those colonial tools that they use to kind of like keep people in this like weird zoo-like mentality, where it's like they can't think outside of that zoo-like box.
Yeah, voting is just not.
But even on the topic of the whole black card thing, right? Like, I'm from Newark, and I remember when Sharp James was in office, everybody loved Sharp James because he was like everybody's uncle. He was like the city's uncle. Like he did things for like the public schools. He was the mayor of Newark for a while, and everybody would really call him Uncle Sharp. Like, you could really go to his house. Like, house. Like, he was the mayor, but he was somebody that was really from there, so people really knew him. Like, it was like he was an old guy at that point, but he didn't like shy away from the city at all. Like, people knew who he was, and he was just that cool. And he really did things like in an unorthodox way that other mayors wouldn't do. Like, sort of like Trump, but not necessarily, where he would just like spend money in a way that really impacted like the people in the community. Like, he really gave them money, like straight up. Like, sometimes you would see him on the street and he would just give you money. Like, he was Uncle Sharp. Like, he wasn't.
Come back.
No,
seriously. Come back to office.
People want him back in office, but now we have Ras Baraka, who's also from the city. This is Amiri Baraka's son.
Yeah.
And now there was this thing that popped up in the news in Newark a few days ago, where Ras Baraka sort of insulted some guy and said that he like did some heinous thing, like raped a girl or something. And the guy was kind of calling him out. Like, well, you want to say that about somebody, but what are you doing really for the community? Like, you kicking people out of their homes and then, you know, redeveloping it, selling it back at these prices where people can't get back into the places where they've lived for all these years, and yada, yada, yada. So it's like, no matter who's in office, at the end of the day, you know, you could have a black face that's in the office that looks like you, that supposedly has that black card for all these years. And then when they get in office, you're gonna find a reason to take their black card, because now you're not doing, you can't function in the same way. It's not like you can actually be like a real human. Like Uncle Sharp, like they had to get him up out of there. He was spending money in the wrong ways. Like, this next election, we gotta get him up out of there. Yeah. Exactly. It's like, that's when Cory Booker came in after Sharp James. So it was like that strong contrast. Like, nah, we need, like, you know, everybody knows Cory Booker is a little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows Cory Booker is
a little bit conservative.
He's Tom DuBois from fucking Boondocks. Like, we could just say it. Like, he's Tom DuBois from the Boondocks.
Exactly.
Like,
I mean, he's just trying to survive.
Who?
Exactly.
Corey?
Exactly. And that.
Well,
yeah,
he's just
that
trying
was the
to.
point.
I mean, the whole thing is like, and this is kind of this is where we kind of wanted to bring the conversation. And I know Menelik had to leave, but I'm very much looking forward to Menelik coming back because it did give, I know it gave a lot of viewers probably blue balls because it was like, you know, the foreplay started and then we had to end it. So it is very much that, you know, it's sort of like the system provides you two choices. And the system provides you two choices is kind of like adopt its views and adopt its views in a way where you either assimilate further and further into the system by utilizing its tools. And one of the main ways that they do that is through the stripping of your identity. Like America is very much a culture that its foundation is the fact that it has no culture. And the reason why it has no culture and the reason why America is so successful is because America strips you of your culture. And that's why so many people that come here, like, you see it. Like, my parents are from Africa. Like, your parents are from Jamaica, right? And, like, some other initiates, like, we have an initiate, she's from India. And her parents are from India. And anyone that grows up as an immigrant in America knows how much the culture of the way that they, like, kids even kind of like attack you for having a culture. Like, there's nicknames.
Like I'm the strong contrast here because I'm just a nigga from like Newark, New Jersey. It took me so long to leave Newark, New Jersey. Like
African
booty scratcher, like everything I could come up with, bro. Anything that had anything to do with either brownness, I was calling you Dookie. I was calling you Twix. I would call you anything. Twix. Like if you brown, like I would just call you anything brown.
That's a good one. Twix.
Like
Twix is a great candy.
Ashy.
It's phenomenal candy.
Sometimes I call
debatable.
Africans ashy. I had a friend named Henry, right?
What's better than Twix, bro?
Yeah, Twix is. Come on, bro.
What you eat Kit Kats, bro? You a Kit Kat kind of nigga?
I do like Kit Kats.
You like you seem like a Kit Kat kind
I
of
do
nigga.
like Kit Kats.
Ain't nobody like Kit Kats but you.
Okay.
You and
fine.
women like Kit Kats. No
That's
one
fine.
else eats Kit Kats.
That's fine. Me and all the women can eat the Kit Kat. That's fine.
I've only met women that like Kit Kats.
That's fine.
Like, I've never met a dude that eats Kit Kats.
That's fine.
Aside from you.
You met one today.
But okay, anyway, back to Henry.
So yeah, Henry was like, he was the blackest of black that we had ever seen at Maple
Like,
Avenue
so blue?
Elementary School.
Like,
I
so
swear,
black
bro.
and blue?
So black and blue. But like Henry.
Shout
didn't-
out to Henry. It's
Henry
okay,
didn't
Henry.
care.
We accept
Yeah.
you now.
Henry's my boy forever.
You're accepted now.
He said, real quick, just a funny story about Henry. Henry, I hope you see this somehow because I'm never going to forget this, bro. And I reminisce on this moment all the time and it makes me laugh. So Henry was a master car thief at a very, very young age, bro.
Oh.
He was just a product of the environment. We live in the
dry
North, bro.
snitching right now, bro.
I mean, hey, Henry's gone. He's like living in his homelands now. He's gone.
Oh, Henry's
gone.
back
Henry's
in
not
Africa?
even his name.
Oh.
Henry's not even his name.
Okay, cool.
Of course not.
Exactly. So Henry was like so cool because he had like cars. He would like have bikes. And we were like young kids. We in elementary school. Like he's Fast and Furious in real life. He's a real person that's like Fast and Furious. So Henry's one day he's like, "Yo, let's start a bike club." Bike club. Let's start a bike club.
Like
and
a
you know what
bicycle?
we're gonna end up doing? We're gonna start a bike shop. And then we're gonna fix bikes and we're gonna get rich. Henry had a soul. It was the luster of it all. He has a car, bro. He has a car. And we're in elementary school. So we like, all right, bet. He like, but we gotta get some money. So every week you get some money from your mother, you get some money from your mother, you get some money from your mother.
How
and
old
we
were
gonna
y'all?
put it in this jar. We like 12, bro. We like 12. So
Henry
we
had
like,
the master plan.
I bet. We went in Peanut backyard. We go in Peanut's backyard. We dig a hole. and put the jar of money in there for 2 weeks, right? We kept it up for 2 weeks. So maybe it's like $50 in there.
And then what? Henry was taking all
We
the money.
put the jar in there. We come out one day. It's like the one day that we're gonna buy like one tool. We have enough to buy like one tool.
Yeah.
We go in there. The jar is gone.
Henry took it.
Henry didn't show up that day.
Henry took
He
it.
knew he was supposed to be there. He didn't show up that day. We didn't see Henry for like 3 weeks. We didn't see him for like 3 weeks. He pops up one random day with like a new watch or something. And we like, Henry, what's up, yo? Like, we was looking for you. We can't find the money. Henry's like, y'all probably got robbed, bro. Well, he said it so calm.
Yeah.
Me and Peanut and everybody else just looked at each other because we knew it was Henry.
Yeah.
When he said it so calmly.
Clearly Henry.
He was just like, hey, y'all probably got robbed, bro. But I'll never forget that, Henry. It soured me in the moment, but you are a hilarious person, and you have made a great memory for me, Henry.
Well, shout out to Henry and his thieving ways.
So, yeah, back to the black card. Yeah, after that, I called Henry like everything that I could every time that I saw him.
Oh, really?
Every time.
This is
Well, you were a
very
little
tender
salty.
memory.
That's a little different.
Yeah.
But I think that the problem is
But in whole, it's a part of the same thing.
It's the
because I don't
culture.
I don't have the culture. I don't have something that I know you have in that way. So I have to find some way to get like a way for me to feel like I have something that you don't. And now we have this this fight that we've been divided
it's
in that
kind of
way.
like bringing somebody down to your level.
Exactly.
It's kind of like, well, you have it, and I don't know what's going on today, but it seems like the air is everyone's kind of tense. And after the day I've had, if I'm this calm, I think everybody can calm down. But sorry, going back to what I was saying was, it is very much like, because I remember my dad always used to say, because I used to, like, you would get made fun of so much that I remember I went home crying one time, and my dad was like, let me tell you something. And he was like, you have to understand that people are attacking you in that way because you know where you're coming from. He was like, and these people don't know where they're coming from. He was like, so that's why they feel they have to attack you in that way. And
it's vice versa. I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
But it's also vice versa because in retrospect, they can also say we're attacking them because they don't know where they're coming from. So that's like, in a way, for those people, just that feeling. Like, can you imagine just not knowing who your parents are?
I mean,
Can you imagine not knowing you don't know?
Don't have to imagine.
Right.
I don't know one of them. But nobody's ever used that against me, like in a an argument or something like that. You can.
Can someone say that?
People
Like,
have
you
done
just,
it.
you
But
just be like,
people
because
do
I
do
grew
that.
up in that kind of like environment. I grew up in Newark, bro.
Oh,
like I
people
went
be
to
like,
a
well, you don't know your dad,
public
nigga.
school. Yo, straight up.
oh, damn. Man, cruel as school kids, as they say.
Seriously.
But that's the thing, though. It's like, how can we even like really bridge the gap? Because the problem again is the identity crisis, right?
Yeah.
And it's a problem that's there because people don't know where they're coming from.
Yeah.
But people who don't know where they're coming from, the other aspect of it is they've already latched on or attached themselves emotionally to the concept of not knowing where you come from.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
now you have this attachment to not knowing, and then now you have the attachment to the identity that you've built or that has been built for you. To the
Right.
point where you refuse to believe that you are not the one in control of that identity.
There you go.
And that's the main problem. Even like what you bringing back to mac and cheese. For anyone of
Mac
this
and
skin
cheese.
tone
Shout out to mac and cheese.
to say if you can make mac and cheese, then that's good, and that you have like a black card for that. Like,
Yeah.
again, this is a perfect example. What is mac and cheese?
But
Mac
even,
and cheese is a
macaroni and
European
cheese.
dish.
even further than that,
Is
right?
it?
It is. It was a European dish introduced to the South during colonial times, and then different groups of people came together and just started eating it. The same how
Drop a bomb
corn.
for the man.
Wait. We have a new sound. Okay, keep going. I just needed a reason.
Like
Oh
even
my
corn,
God.
even cornbread, right? Cornbread, for example, we would say that that's like a black Southern thing.
Yeah.
But in reality, cornbread was actually a meal taught to the Europeans by the indigenous people, the Native Americans.
Oh,
And it wasn't
really?
even called cornbread at
That makes
first.
so much sense.
What was it? Yeah, because they had none but corn. None
Yeah,
but corn.
it was corn. So it was a kind of like corn. They would do the cornmeal, and then they would put it over an open fire, and then they cover it and bake it, and then it comes out to the
Yo,
cornbread, and that was like a
what?
staple. So they taught that to the Dutch and the Portuguese when they first came here, and then they taught it to the Spanish. So that became like a staple meal in like the South and in like
Cornbread
the
is amazing, though.
what they call it, the Midwest. So as black people got introduced to it again, people were just sharing ideas. This is where the danger of just not knowing where you are coming from comes in, because you latch on to the identity of everything that's presented to you.
I might go get some
And then now
cornbread.
you feel like, oh, you own this thing. So
Yeah.
whatever you do with whatever's been given to you, you now take that as the thing that's like, oh my God, it's mine.
And there's another element that's added to it though, because even with the this thing that you're bringing up about
Honey and
food
cornbread is great.
is very important, because it's like, not only is it about making mac and cheese, and not only is it about making cornbread, not only is it about making potato salad, it's about making a good potato salad, right?
Don't put no raisins in your potato
Now, what's
salad.
a good potato salad, right? You can't have raisins in it. You can't like do certain things to these recipes. Like you have to use heavy cream in your mac
Yeah,
and cheese.
it's true.
You have to.
Do you put eggs in your
have
mac
to.
and cheese?
You have to. You have to have 6 bags of refined sugar in your yams.
Yeah, if you aren't pouring bags and bags of sugar in
I
your
got a
candied
pro- I got a
yams,
problem with
are they
yams.
real candied
Are they
yams?
candied
I got a
yams?
problem with yams because they're not yams; they're
And then
actually
have you-
potatoes.
Talk about it.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying.
them,
No,
bro.
I'm just saying they're
I don't
potatoes. They're
mean-
not
I don't
yams.
mean
It's
like
the
it's
truth.
gone.
They're
It's
not
sweet
yams.
potatoes.
And I know
They're sweet
you and
potatoes. They're
Menelik
not
were
yams.
ready to fight to the death. But go ahead, tell
no,
us
not
about
at all.
yams.
Not at all.
Tell us about yams.
Nothing much. I'm just saying they're sweet potatoes. They're not yams.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Like
an
when-
African yam.
When people when I heard yams,
not the right name.
and you guys even did this to me when we went to the grocery store, and I have to talk about it because I was trying to tell you guys there's Negro yam. But when we got to the store, you guys was showing me sweet potatoes, and I'm like, "That's sweet potato," and you're telling me it's yams. So in my Caribbean African brain,
I remember
I
this.
could not
Yeah.
understand
I
what
think
you
we
were
were
saying.
in Houston.
Yeah,
I think we were in Houston. We were
Yeah.
looking for yams.
Yeah.
Like the real African yam.
And I was telling you, look
Yeah.
for Negro yams, and you're telling me this is what Negro yams is. And lo and behold, when we got back,
Yo, that's hilarious.
We got back.
'Cause I didn't
I
get
went
it
to
at
a
that point.
I went to a Spanish store, and the yams that I know as yams, which is African yams, Caribbean
Right.
yams, the same yam, they have it labeled Negro yam.
Bro, yeah.
And then the sweet potato is just sweet
What?
potato. And I'm just in my mind, I'm like, so why are they calling this yam? But then again,
I don't
me
know.
being me, you have to look it up again. The term yam is just, it's even coming from a Fulani word yam, meaning just eat. It's just the thing you eat. So they mash that, and then they just call that the yam.
But that's interesting because the
Madu.
Madu word is
For swallow
yam,
is
to swallow.
Yam.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which in Jamaica we call it nyam. If you want to eat, you say nyam.
Nyam.
Wow.
Is that the way you guys say it?
Yeah, nyam.
Nyam.
No, not like that.
Not
Don't
like
say it
that.
like
You
that.
sound
No.
a little Asian.
You're exaggerating it too
Oh,
much.
do I sound Asian? Accents were never my strong suit. I will admit that.
No, see, there you're going into the. I don't even know what accent this is.
Which one?
That you always do when
Which
you
one?
start putting on your Marlon Brando voice and you start
It
acting.
is. It's a Marlon Brando voice. It is. You're just jealous because you don't have a Marlon Brando voice. You guys are
Okay,
just
you got
haters.
me. You got me.
You guys are just haters. You're joining the hater fan club with Genesis because I drew a better picture than Genesis, and then she was just mad about it.
Now
and I
you're
have video
hating
proof.
on a
I have video
5-year-old.
proof. Yeah, and I got video proof. And I have no shame whatsoever.
Going back to the
I
topic.
won. Genesis, I won.
Okay, going back to the topic. Yeah, the point is, you can't really take things that, again, were presented to you, and it was presented to you based off of, again, survival. It's based off of what you had to fit into or conform to, and then now use that as your identity. That in itself is describing what Tutipsa was saying with it being an identity crisis. Because the foundation in which you got that identity was a crisis. It's the same thing with the Jews. Like, their whole identity is built off of what? A crisis. It's built off of an event that historically we can't even really prove, because that's not even, really what happened. It was more like you got kicked out of somewhere, but then you want to play victim, and then now because you're playing victim, you want to rewrite the story and say that you were expelled from somewhere.
I mean, that's the thing, is like, there's been such a number done on everyone to such a degree that we find ourselves here, like, basing our identity off of just nonsensical shit. Just shit that don't make sense. And we keep fighting to champion these things that don't take us anywhere, but then make us feel like we have something. And it's crazy, because if we had another sign at the International African Arts Festival, and it was reparations are a waste of time.
Right.
Changed my mind. And before all hell broke loose, there was a brother that came up, and he was saying that it would not make sense for everybody to get millions of dollars, because even if they got millions of dollars, what would they do with it?
Right.
Put it back in the system.
Put it back in the system, right? Because, and that's the thing, is like, when you look at what's going on with
charge it to the black card.
right, charge it to the black card. That's a good one. Charge it to the black card. That's a good one. And then what would happen is essentially the antithesis of what you see India and UAE, the United Arab Emirates, and what you see these countries in Africa doing, which is saying, and shout out to the president of Burkina Faso, because he's really saying things, and he's making things, he's really ruffling a lot of feathers, and he's saying things that need to be said, because he's basically saying, like, Africa has all the resources, and yet these African countries are going to these so-called superpowers that are dependent upon us for their resources, and we're begging to get something from them. And this is the reason why Hillary killed Gaddafi. The reason why Hillary killed Gaddafi is because Gaddafi was talking about getting a currency that was backed by African resources. And they were like, nah, you got to get up out of here. And this is the problem, is in trying to actually get an identity that's not rooted in fucking nonsense.
Exactly.
That's not based on fucking yams.
What makes your mac and cheese good?
What goes in your fucking mac and cheese.
Exactly.
We find ourselves arguing about that nonsense instead of actually saying, like, let's get the fuck out of Dodge. Like,
And,
why are we sitting and arguing about this bullshit?
A part of why, in my opinion, now I get to see it based on the conversation that started with Menelik and Kajazariman now.
And Menelik, you're definitely coming back.
Yes, please.
You're definitely coming back.
Because before I never really looked at it like, okay, these people were just trying to survive, right? Like he was saying, the Black Panther Party came together because those people were trying to survive within a community because they're literally being attacked, right? So if you draw that out throughout history, yeah, people are being attacked and they're literally dying, like, you know, because someone is coming in and trying to bring forth a different way of thinking, right? They think that the way that they think is correct. So they bring it to you and they say, if you don't do it, well, we have to get rid of you because what I'm coming with is correct. Like this is the way it has to work. So those people who do conform to it and do assimilate are essentially trying to survive, right? Someone's father was even just saying earlier today that like the progress in America for black people looks like assimilation in a certain way. And it's like, that's
It is assimilation.
that's the thought process that has to happen. That's the process. Shit.
It's true.
That damn video. It's the process that has to happen. First, they have to come in and say like, this is what's right. What you've been doing is for so long is wrong. I was just having a conversation with somebody about this the other day. It's like they come in and they tell you that whatever you've been doing is wrong. They demonize it somehow. The generation that they come to, that's adults, when they come to the generation that's the adults in the community at that time, they'll fight back. Some of them will get killed. Some of them will assimilate. But it's really about targeting like the children. That's why the whole LGBTQ thing, QAI, you know, the trans agenda right now, where they're saying that they're trying to groom the children. If you don't groom the children, it doesn't last.
Yeah.
If you don't teach a culture to your children, it doesn't last. So that's the whole basis of it, really. But when those people are trying to survive, now the part that becomes very tricky or very mental within it is that, yes, you can survive beyond that point. And this is why we're even here doing this work that we're doing now, is because some of us will survive, but also have the wit and the wherewithal to say, behind the scenes, there's something else that I have to do. There's something that my father's been doing that I have to continue doing, even if on the front end, I'm just trying to survive. And that's what separates like the person who survived and was able to like continue the mission versus the one that survived and adopted the mission of the one who conquered you. So it's a very complex conversation, but you know, that's the point that I think we're really trying to make, is that when you end up in that situation, you have to have something that really like gives you a way to get back into the culture that you were taken from, like authentically, so that you're not just telling yourself that you have a culture that's tied to something when that isn't even a culture per se itself, like you were saying.
Yeah, but you have to have detachment, and that's the problem. Like, it's hard to detach from that idea of that culture, which is not a culture, because again, even the idea that black culture is like the culture that like pushes America forward, that everyone is copying, again, it's kind of a really big falsehood, because what's really even pushing that culture, that so-called culture, which is really just pop culture, like hip-hop culture is just pop culture. It's just popular culture. It's the things that are popular.
Trends.
So it's the things that are trendy and the things that repeat. What's really pushing that is the fact that it's actually coming from America.
Have you guys seen They Clone Tyrone?
Yeah.
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 You guys
yeah,
seen
yeah.
that, right?
Yep.
And I think
Yep.
that movie is so pertinent to this kind of conversation,
For sure.
because They
genius.
Clone is genius. It was genius. And what makes They Clone Tyrone so pertinent to this conversation is you even see like the powers that be that are trying to perpetuate every type of system that they keep in these so-called urban communities going, is that there are certain tropes and there are certain caricatures, there are certain individuals that maintain that status quo going in every urban community. The pimp, the drug dealer,
And
no, not even but they didn't remember that the hoe wasn't one of the people, because he was like, you're so replaceable.
That's true.
He was like that we don't need a
That's a
hoe.
fact.
I think it was a liquor store person. And then it was they had a few people, but the main people was like the liquor store person,
the drunk,
the drunk, and then they had Fontaine, who was a drug dealer, and then they had whatever his name is, the pimp. And then outside of them, then they also had Slick. And then they also had the dudes that were white, but looked black. And they were the managers, and they were the ones running the chicken shop. And then the other place, I can't remember what the other place was.
Liquor store, the
Liquor store, the chicken shop,
The liquor store, the chicken
and
shop.
the church.
The
Exactly.
church, yeah, the church. And that's the thing, is like, that's the problem, is that's become the identity of being black. Like, in order for you to have a black card.
It was funny. Zawaz was talking to us about Atlanta earlier. He was like, I met Ludacris at the airport one time. Luda. And it was just like, it's funny that you bring it up now because he even has an album named Chicken and Beer.
Yeah, Chicken and Beer. Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah. There's a really great song off of the Nigga album that Nas did back in like 2008. And it's about fried chicken. And it was him and Busta Rhymes that did the song. And they talk about fried chicken in a way where the song is from the perspective of the chicken. And it's from the perspective, I think it's from the perspective of the chicken and also the guy that's making the chicken. But then at the end of the song, they finally kind of like break it. And then they're like, why would I be addicted to something that's killing me? And it just like, there's so many wonderful pieces of content out there that are challenging you to think outside of what you think your identity is coming from and what your identity is, that it makes no sense to be emotionally attached to your identity in such a way where you just want to kind of fight for the identity to say like, this is all I have, instead of being like, you're right, that is all you have. So then why don't you put it down and then learn that there's other things that you can get, instead of trying to fight for this pathetic like remnant of what you think is your identity and being like, this is it. Because I remember vividly just how different, and it took me a long time to really kind of understand this, is how different Black Americans view themselves versus people that are coming from other areas of the diaspora.
right.
Like, and I remember figuring that out at a young age and then realizing like, oh, okay, now I understand what's happening. Because you're in the thick of it growing up in America. You don't understand that you're in the middle of people that are literally having an identity crisis.
Right.
And because they're having an identity crisis, they're not able to reconcile with their feelings of superiority or inferiority and all of these different complexes that the divide and conquer status
gives to
has, circumstances has created for people. And then in order to make themselves feel better to some degree, it's let me find some way to bring you down a peg and bring you down to my level, which is somebody that lacks an identity or somebody that has no culture. And that's really the problem, because it used to bother me a lot growing up, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
It still bothers me, but I'm gonna tell you why it bothers me. It bothers me not because I'm offended. It bothers me because I deeply feel angry and I deeply feel some kind of hate. I wouldn't say hatred, almost hatred, kinda, to the system.
Okay, I
Not-
was like, for who?
For no, to the system, to colonization, to like just how much we've been divided to the point where these kinds of things exist in our minds, where we have these intellectual battles in our minds versus what's even in our spirit.
Yo, I was just about to say,
That's
like,
what gets me angry. That's the kind of thing that pisses me. Like, I hate the concept of the diaspora wars.
Exactly.
Like, when I see Black Americans versus Caribbeans versus Africans, and then different Caribbeans versus other Caribbeans, and then different niggas from different states, different niggas from different boroughs versus this, and then this African versus this African. When I see all these things, like, I almost feel crazy, because it's like, why am I not thinking the same way they're thinking?
Right.
Why am I not thinking the same way that they're thinking, in terms of like trying to get at each other's throats, trying to differentiate between each other in these ways? Like, am I going mad? Am I going insane? So it really, really bothers me personally. And I think it's something that needs to be said and needs to be talked about. But one of the problems with talking about it is, again, the emotions or the way that people here have been raised, it's like once you mention something that's opposite to what they think in their mind, then they're almost ready to attack you without even listening to what you're truly trying to say.
It's true.
It's two things, right? It's two things I want to bring up real quick. So, one, like you was just saying, you know, there's this sort of underlying, because really for my whole life, and I could say, I'm going to just say shout out to my ancestors for this, because for my whole life, really, I felt, you know, this sort of undying, like, angst to be closer to something that was, like, natural, like, that came from nature. And in those, like, thoughts, even as, like, a young child, it was like, man, I see so much division, but what brings us together? Like, what is it that could kind of, I guess that maybe all kids kind of think this at some point, right? Like, they're like, how can we avert this problem, like, of people being so separated? Why has everybody got to be so separated? So eventually I started to think, like, okay, if this person is, you know, black, and this person is white, this person is a Native American, this person is an African, this person is Scottish, this person is Irish. Yeah, all of those people are humans. All of those people are human beings. If I can, like, some people can lighten their skin. Like, it's a real thing. People use cream and make their skin lighter. Some people
Unfortunately
put makeup on and make their skin darker. So it's like,
Shout out to Rachel Dolezal.
yo, it's a real thing. But that you can change. But at the end of the day, you can't change the fact that you're a human being. You could buy a suit that make you look like a dog, but you're gonna be a human being under there. Like, there's nothing that's gonna change that. So for a long time, I was walking around, you know, as a black American, thinking like, what do we do to bring everybody together? And it was more so in that kumbaya kind of way that, you know, people think in the West, where it's like, you just have to, everyone has to love one another. And
that's not how I saw it.
yada. I know you didn't, because you Jamaican, so you a little more nuts.
Everybody have to dead. that was my
Everybody gonna what?
every enemy has to die. That was my concept.
That was the concept growing
Yeah,
up?
that was my concept. You know, I had a dream. I
What?
call it the United Nations of the West Indies. We were going to unite all the West Indian countries, and then we were going to liberate and free Africa, and then we are going to come and take over America and kick out all the white people.
So who
Did a
was,
good job on you.
who was gonna be in the United Nations of the West Indies? Like, who did you have in mind?
Oh, everyone within the West Indies.
Yeah, but who though? Who was gonna be what? Because you know how like everybody has a different part to play in the United Nations, so it's kind of like who would be?
No,
who?
we were going to get rid of all the flags.
All the flags.
Yeah, all the flags would have to be gone. It would have to be like one United Nation.
So it'd be like the United Nations of the West Indies.
Literally.
Literally. So then you were
There'd
just like,
be one
let's
flag.
be the United Nations. Let's do what they do best.
Yeah, that exactly.
And just
Let's
become
just steal
them.
it.
Exactly. It's a perfect example
Let's
of
just
you're
steal
just
it.
doing what's presented to you.
Yeah.
You have no other concept or no other way to like think anything else.
It's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad because I think so many of us have grown up kind of like doing that and not even realize that's what we're doing. And that's really the problem.
Exactly.
Is like when we really talk about an identity crisis, we talk about somebody trying so hard to gain an identity to such a degree that they're willing to do anything, including adopting the identity of the colonizer in order to gain an identity or gain the colonizer's nickname for you in their imperialistic or colonial system. And that's the thing is like, you know, that's the thing I started to touch on a little bit when Menelik was here is like, you know, that's what has happened is it's been adopted. Like the name of the colonizer has been adopted and that's become the identity. And then there's so much bullshit surrounding the identity that's what we use. And
But you know what was one thing that I found interesting that Menelik said that I think is a large part of this conversation too is he was like, he said Kaja Zarima said something that was about like thousands of years ago, and then you jumped like to, you know, now, and it's like what other option do you really have if history is what tells the story? You can't try to use the history from 10 years ago and 20 years ago and 30 years ago without finding out what's behind that. And then if you keep going further and further back and you know, history keeps telling that same story, then where's really like the realistic root of, you know, the standpoint that you have today? So, but that's the thing that becomes, that's also one of the elements that becomes frowned upon because people are like, well, we're trying to progress. We're trying to make progress, like where we are now. So how do we do that within this, you know, this monster, this beast that we're in now, without the same, you know, access to what we had access to thousands of years ago?
But that's another danger of it. It's like progress in terms of what,
towards
like
what?
what's the concept of progress in your mind now? So it's like even that whole
Or even
concept,
the concept of survival now.
Right. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Again, it's like what's also been presented to you by outside forces, and now you've latched on to that idea of progress, not necessarily knowing that that same idea of progress is even what's killing you. Like an example, I just came back home from Jamaica, right? And
This isn't home.
no,
Jamaica
I'm
is
calling
home.
home. I'm calling their home. I was there. I was home. I came back. Sorry, it's just my it's just my accent. But
No, well, you called this place home.
no, again, that's what I mean. Is my accent.
Yeah.
We speak a little backwards. You would say we speak backwards, but it's not backwards.
All
But
right, whatever.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Anyway, the point is, I was there. I was home, and I was speaking with some of my family members about our community, about how certain things have changed and certain things have not changed. And the things that have changed are things that, for me, are the important things. For example, people used to come together as a whole community. Like, they would be like a whole coalition where everyone would come and, like, clean up the entire environment, even, like, clean out the river, like, take care of the land. You don't really see people doing that as much anymore. But what you do see now is people trying to develop things more. There's more street lights now. There's more buildings and things like that. Even though, mind you, this is like in the country. Like, I mean, like, this is like bush. So, like, to even get there, you gotta go through some dirt and what we would call messed up roads. Like, roads that people here would be scared to drive on.
Right.
I'm talking like edge of cliffs and stuff like that. But even there, as far as that place is in the bush, they're talking about why are we the only place in Jamaica, the only parish that doesn't have a KFC. And I'm looking at them. I'm like, this is what you're worried about?
That's what you want?
I'm there. I'm like, bro, y'all haven't cleaned the river in 2 years.
Right.
And you're telling me
I
about
said, where's the KFC at?
where's the KFC?
Right.
And it's just like those small things, because maybe it doesn't seem like a big thing to some people, but for me, it's a big thing because them wanting the KFC, them wanting certain things, what it's really doing is now providing a kind of way to allow the colonial system to get an even stronger foothold in, because now people are going to stop doing even more than just cleaning the river. They're going to stop practicing certain things. They're already starting to. They're already starting to, because they want to assimilate more into like what is like modern, because they want to develop things now.
And it all really boils down to like a ease. Like, what's crazy is really, I've noticed, and this is one of the other points that I really wanted to bring up, is that me being a black, like growing up black, I didn't really ever think, right, that I would go somewhere in Africa and make a connection in my mind that, man, they tried to, like, what they really did, what the colonizer really did was take away all of the important parts of it and gave me the sense of not having what he had again, right? So I live in the ghetto. I'm from the hood. So we don't have the access to the good health care, yada, yada. The houses are shoddy. We got abandoned houses. It's kind of like messed up. So in that same way, when we got to Africa, right, I see the houses, I see what like the makeup of things is. It's like, man, this is kind of familiar. This is just like the ghetto. But it's not a ghetto for them. It's just life. And it's not like the worst circumstance. They're not looking at it like, oh, my circumstance is like this, and I have to get out of the hood to go and be a part of, you know, this other thing in life that's like better than this. It's like that's just what they have, and that's good enough. So when I saw that, now I'm like, damn, like all this time I've been wasting my time, like wasting my life thinking that I was gonna like level up within the assimilation when I had exactly what I needed. Like the people in the ghetto have what they need. They have it. But the only part that's missing is, like you were saying, like just the thought, the inkling in your mind to say that life shouldn't be this easy. There's things, like there's a natural phenomenon around me that support my life. Like I get vegetables, I get meat, I get eggs from a grocery store. Why is life that easy if one of my neighbors in my old neighborhood, he had chickens, he had like roosters, and we walk past his house and make jokes like, what are you doing with a rooster? Yep. But now that I've been to Africa and I've seen like this is an actual part of life. Your life is not that easy. You shouldn't be able to go to a grocery store and buy a dead chicken that somebody else killed. Why don't you know how to catch a chicken, kill it, clean it, cook it, and eat it so that you can actually survive? And then it goes back to like, now our idea that they've given the people in the ghetto of survival is no longer about like having these natural phenomena be a part of your life. And what makes your life valuable is just like, how easy can I make my life? Can I make $1 million off this rap shit and then get me a mansion that next to some white people that's gonna call the cops on me? Like J. Cole made a whole song about it. The neighbors think I'm selling dope. Nigga just in his basement making music. And they call a whole raid on him because it's a black guy next door and some black people next door. So it's like, you know, I myself, that's one of the biggest realizations that I had on that trip, you know, when we took the pilgrimage, you know, it was just mind blowing, man, because I'm like, they really have what they need. And I know that I had like a large part of what I needed for so long, but there was this thing missing that was about these natural principles and actually having nature like be a part of your life, like not living in a square house and having a refrigerator, but actually having to go to a market, get the vegetables, bring them back, cut a cow and dry it so that it lasts, like dry it in the sun so that it lasts for days, so that you can actually have reserves for meat. It's like, it's a completely, you know, it's an overlooked part of life and survival itself, because you yourself as a human being, you're technically a natural phenomenon. You come from nature.
And you know, it's funny you say that, because that's important what you said. A natural phenomenon surviving based on natural phenomenons, right? Now you find people from the West who have lost their identity.
Right.
It's not even about black anymore with this at this point.
Right.
Now it's about black people, white people, Spanish people, whatever. All of us, to a degree, have lost our identity. But you find people who have given their life to the system, given their life into living in this leisure and living in this way, who are now realizing that they are a natural phenomenon.
Exactly.
And now they're trying to go out and find the natural world as natural phenomenons. Like, you see people with money who are giving up those lifestyles to go find life in the wilderness, to go find life with indigenous people, to actually go and try to reclaim those things, to live fulfilled, to actually fill the gap that's missing, to actually get rid of, you know, the depression. Because living in this lifestyle, no matter what we say, no matter how much we want to think it's like better or it's more easier, it gives us leisure, all it does, it gives you mental sickness. It gives you a puts you in a mental psychosis.
degeneration.
It's a mental degeneration, and the only way to cure it is to go back and live in nature, to live with those natural phenomena. And you find people going back and doing that. And that's the sad part about it. It's like we think that we're supposed to get away from that, when in reality,
Exactly.
we're supposed to go towards
Exactly.
that.
Yo, and even like the whole middle class conversation, right? It's like the ghetto is the real middle class, like of life. Like or in the colonial sense, right? Like a African in the bush, like that's low. Like that's as low as you can go. That's homelessness, right? By their standard, it's homelessness because you live in a shack. Something that's very small. That's very.
It's not a convenient
Exactly
lifestyle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can build a big shack,
You can, but what's the utility if you don't have a
That's
lot
my
of
media
people?
room over there. That's my TV room.
Exactly. But it's like that now that really becomes the reason why the whole middle class thing is a lie. Like it's a complete lie, because that's really what the middle class is. It's like you have low, like I said, which is just homelessness to them. And that's what that African lifestyle is like. But then the middle class is like, okay, now you have to look at trying to be rich as what gets you out of what I've built for you. Rather than like, okay, I have enough. Let me figure out this other part of life that actually makes me a human being.
which brings you further and further away from what is natural, which is
Exactly.
And again, even those people at the top are the ones trying to go back all the way down to the low.
That's what people are
Exactly.
doing with their money. I mean, that's why you see, that's why you see people that make millions of dollars or billionaires, all this kind of stuff. That's what they want to do.
Exactly.
And that's what they're doing. They don't make it known, but that's what they want to do, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because they know that, and they know that that's the only way to go. And it's unfortunate because, the con job that's happened is that everybody thinks that, that the way to go is the way that people that have reached the apex of the modern system is trying to get away from. And that just shows how warped everyone's thinking is. And, we really wanted to finish out this episode with Menelik, but I know Menelik wasn't able to stick around. But Menelik, the first opening that we have without a guest, you will be coming back if you do not have work, and we will make sure that we start early enough so that you're able to, be here for the entirety of the show.
Take off a day,
And-
man.
Yeah, or take off a day, yeah. I mean, I don't think they're going to miss you that much.
They got your clone,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, they got you. Yeah,
They got your clone.
They got your clone. They cloned Menelik, not they cloned Tyrone. But this has been another episode of the Gated Gates podcast. We appreciate you for tuning in. Before we sign off, we just want to let you guys know again, September 3rd, class registration event
So what?
at the New Jersey Temple, and
It's all the way at the bottom.
yeah,
September 3rd.
You're dropping the ball on the
Sleeping at the wheel.
on the visuals. So September 3rd, 1 p.m., 1506 Anderson Avenue, Fort Lee, New Jersey. Check it out. You're more than welcome to come through. For those of you that don't know, the doors of initiation are opening up. We'll be coming at you, with a bunch of different promos leading up to the event. So please, check it out. Come around. And, we hope to see you there. We appreciate you for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week. We have some more guests in the coming weeks. So, stay tuned. The form of the show will, be different depending upon who we have on the show. So we appreciate you guys. And
Don't forget, Kebtah-nj.org.
Yes, I am so sorry.
We have so many events coming up in the
Yes.
coming weeks, including the registration on September 3rd. Kebtah-nj.org. Scroll all the way to down to the bottom.
Speaking of which, we have an event coming up, and if you're in New York City, please don't miss it. It's at Maha Rose. What's the August 31st, 6 to 8 p.m. It is indigenous cleansing. We're going to be going into a lot of top secret indigenous knowledge in terms of energies, where your energies come from, how to cleanse your energies, you know, how they correlate to the stars and astrology and astronomy and your energies and where that whole notion comes from. So we'll be going into a very wonderful, wonderful talk, a very wonderful workshop in terms of how to cleanse those energies and how to continue benefiting from, you know, being aligned with those astronomical energies and how those astronomical energies align with, you know, you. So check that out. That's gonna be August 31st. That's this month. That's not too far away. So, you know, please sign up. Maha Rose. Again, that's in Brooklyn. That's gonna be 6 to 8 p.m. We have so many other events. Check it out. Kebtah-nj.org. Also, check out all our other wonderful websites. I know that they're showing them to you guys on the screen. risingfirefly.org. You know, the earthcenter.org, anhlife.org. Check it out. We have so many resources, so many ways for everybody to get involved. And we'll be in touch, and we'll see you guys soon. Idiru.
Idiru.